Darcy wants to rekindle her long-lost friendship with Astrid and surprises her with a life-size rag doll for her birthday, all the while confessing her true feelings. However, the feelings are not reciprocated. Rejected, Darcy sets herself alight. After her funeral, a series of strange killings commence where the rag doll comes to life in Darcy's desperate attempt to prove her undying love for Astrid. Billed as a mockbuster, this title from the Asylum seems a little bit more polished and, dare I say it, entertaining than their usual output. Now I know that immediately most of you are going to say, oh, this is rubbish, it's a 1-star film or a 0-star film, etc, etc. Because let's be honest, those type of comments are pretty good clickbait. But that's a little unfair for this title. There's quite a few moments in this film where there's potential and it kind of starts to shine through. Now it's obvious what the inspirations for this movie are. Megan immediately comes to mind, and since that was inspired a little bit by Chucky, then there are also elements of a Child's Play here. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it's more Child's Play and less Megan. There's no killer robots in this movie and there's no deadly AI either. My guess is it's more of a budgetary constraint and less of a creative decision. What we do have in the end though is your standard doll slasher film. There's one stage in this movie where it threatens to do exactly what I thought it would do, and had it have done it, it would have been a far better storyline. There's a discussion about voodooism, and I know most people would have immediately compared the movie to Child's Play, but I think adding a supernatural element to this film would have been far more fun. Instead, this movie rips an ending that's right out of the Chinese horror movie playbook and goes all Scooby-Doo. That means we end up with an overly long final third that adds so many plot holes to the story that I don't blame all those 1-star user reviews. The ending of this movie kind of really sucks. However, I do think there are some positives. I mean, the cast is mostly very attractive. The acting is really solid, and the first 2/3 of the movie kinda makes sense, and that creepy look of the doll was nailed. I mean, it's ugly, but that's kind of the point, right? But then add in the unnecessary and unexplained killing of the maid, the fact that Astrid's so-called friends are anything but friends, goreless kills where it's obvious the production crew doesn't want to mess up the house and clean it, the strange skull CGI in the immolation scene, a massive plot hole about Darcy needing to eat and go to the toilet, the fact that Fiona doesn't question why the doll has her phone, the two very out of place exposition scenes, one at the funeral and another right at the end of the film. And what we're left with is a film that's probably only worth that 1-star review that everyone is so desperate to give it. Now, horror fans might get a kick out of Harry Friday the 13th Manfredini's music score, but to be honest, I hardly noticed it at all. And I definitely didn't make the link between what I did notice and the composer himself. It's hard to escape the fact that this movie is a labor of love though. There's a lot of care, attention, well, some attention, and passion in this end project, which is why it deserves a higher ranking than what most of the users will give this movie. This isn't classic cinema. This is Friday night, let's stream a movie off Tubi kind of cinema. And that's kind of still fun cinema. So using my patent pending ghost rating, which stands for great horror or stupid trash, Morgan, the killer doll, gets 2 ghosts. I kinda liked the movie. I kinda liked where it was going. I didn't like the ending, and I didn't like that final third. When you start to go all Chinese horror movie on me and introduce the Scooby-Doo element, and then leave the most exciting part of the movie, which was the voodooism, on the table and go completely unexplained, then I think you've kind of really missed a really cool part of what could have made this movie a little bit more interesting. I think we always knew that this movie was going in against the odds. It was never going to be looked favorably, but I think there could have been a lot more fun to be had with it than what we get at the end. But I would still say, give it a shot. It's not totally bad. Anyway, I am the Artie Dans. You are watching Shockmania. Thank you so much for tuning in. What did you think of Morgan Killer Doll? I keep wanting to call it Megan Killer Doll, and that's obviously the intention of the filmmaker here, to make you want to missay it. And it's so close together, Morgan and Megan. But anyway, have you seen it? Will you go to the cinema to watch it? Because it's getting a very limited run in the cinemas. Otherwise, let me know what you think below. Like, subscribe, all that other jazz. I'll catch you next time.